Are your homeschool days dragging on and on? Are you and your children feeling burned out? Stick around for reasons why you should keep homeschool lessons short. I work full-time, and at this point I have multiple jobs and my favorite side hustle, Kids Learning for Life and the Learning for Life podcast, so it's safe to say that I am pretty short on time. The number one question that I am asked by our audience or people I meet in person is, how do you fit in time to homeschool? I actually did a video recently about how I am able to do this, in which I basically explain how I homeschool for about 1 hour per day. A big component of how I keep my homeschool time manageable is keeping lessons short. I suggest this to basically everyone I know because it's the only way that I am able to homeschool in addition to dealing with everything else that I have on my plate. This is for a few reasons. First, obviously, I am short on time. During the week, I do homeschool lessons with my kids on my lunch break. We do math and language arts every single day, and I keep each of these lessons for each subject for each of my children at about 15 minutes per day. If I did an hour or more per subject every day, I literally wouldn't be able to get it done. Saving time on homeschool really allows us to move on with our day. So we can move on to chores, nature study, or free reading, things that my kids can do independently. The other main reason that I suggest doing short lessons is to avoid burnout. My number one goal, according to my homeschool philosophy, you can check out that video too, is to create a lifelong love of learning in my kids. I never want my kids to enter into homeschool lessons dreading how the next few hours of learning are going to go. I feel like doing short lessons really keeps them motivated because they know that they just have to focus for a short amount of time and then we can put it away and work on it tomorrow. I do feel like I need to make something very clear here. I do not do short lessons to cater to short attention spans of children. Quite the opposite. I think that keeping lessons short actually helps them increase their attention span, almost like exercising a muscle. They know that their lessons will only take a short amount of time. So during that time, they are expected to sit and focus on the task at hand. Once they are done with school, they are able to pursue their own interests all afternoon. My daughters are known to wash dishes for hours at a time or sit around coloring and listening to audiobooks for entire afternoons at a time. So I'm really not concerned with the development of creating a shorter attention span by using shorter lessons. So how do I implement short lessons into my homeschool? I will let you in on a little secret. I don't use a timer. I know a lot of people do, but I've never gotten in the habit of using one. I'm a very punctual, time-oriented person, so I typically can feel when lessons have gotten a little bit too long, so I know when to cut it off. But I will link to a few really cool timers that I know other homeschoolers have used. That'll be in the description below. The way I keep my lessons short in my homeschool is to just keep my expectations at a minimum. I have a post-it note system in which I write down the pages of which curriculum I expect my children to finish that day. I usually keep it pretty short, maybe only 1 page per day, but of course that fluctuates based on what the curriculum is asking for on that page. For example, there are pages of primary mathematics that are really dense with number sentences and math problems. So I wouldn't expect my child to do that entire page in 1 day. I would probably break it up over the course of at least a couple days or even like 5 days. On the other hand, I also know that pages of things like Explode the Code can be extremely simple. So sometimes I could do 2 or 3 pages of that in a day with one of my kids, and that would also fit within that 15-minute time period. Once you start thinking about lessons in a time-based manner instead of like completing entire exercises at a time, you will start to know and kind of be able to expect what your children can get done in that amount of time every day. Please don't be afraid to break up entire exercises over the course of multiple days. There is no curriculum police that's gonna know that you broke up that page of primary mathematics over a whole entire week. You have to do what will work for you and your children. I try to use curriculum that is very low on prep work for the parent. I also prefer if my kids can kind of open it and start working on it before I'm actually sitting with them. I'll use the same examples I just used. Primary mathematics and Explode the Code are both really easy for my kids to understand what the curriculum is asking them to do before I even come over and sit and assist them. So they can kind of get started for a few minutes, or at least assess what the curriculum is asking them to do before I'm able to come and facilitate. So that saves a lot of time in our homeschool. So about timing, I do recommend keeping lessons between 15 and 30 minutes per subject per child every day. This all depends on the age of your children though, because high schoolers will get into more rigorous curriculum, and also they're just capable of doing a little bit more sitting and focusing, and that might be a good practice for them going into college. So they can do more like 45 minutes or 60 minutes based on what they're working on. Just know that your children are still learning, still making progress, still learning what they need to learn, even if you're not homeschooling for hours every day. Of course, in family life, there are almost always roadblocks. First of all, my 2 older daughters do piano lessons as well, and this includes the use of a piano music theory workbook that they do some work in every week. Now, it's never a lot of work, but this is an additional thing that we have to keep in mind timing-wise, because that's a little bit of extra work that I kind of have to carve out of doing other homeschool work to accommodate that. I try to have them just complete this as early in the week as possible, just so we can move on to things that are a little less time sensitive. So just keep that in mind when planning ahead and maybe signing up for more extracurriculars, because those might cut into your homeschool time. Also, I have a child or two, won't name names, who are known for resisting school time. I typically do everything I can in my power to keep lessons short, but sometimes if a child is resistant, you're gonna have to sit with them a little longer and really work with them through the lesson to make sure that it's getting done. The key here is getting them to focus, which isn't always easy, especially for younger kids. For me, the key to combating a lack of focus is to remind them that once they're done doing their schoolwork, which won't be very long, they can move on to do the other activities that they would love to do all day long. And also sometimes what helps is playing soothing music very quietly in the background. I also make expectations very clear. So I'll say, I want you to complete this entire page of your math curriculum today, just so that they're not being surprised by anything, nothing's jumping out at them, and they know exactly what is expected of them. Of course, there is no cure-all for making homeschool life easier. I mean, when you make the decision to homeschool, no one has ever said that it's an easy path to take. But it is some of the most rewarding work that you will ever do as a parent, and I find that keeping lessons short is a really easy way to keep positive thoughts and feelings around school and learning in general. Keeping lessons short is an amazing way to avoid burnout in your kids or yourself. And, it is something that anyone can do, even if you're not working or have other daily obligations. Don't try to replicate the public school system at home. You can get the most out of your homeschool day by doing shorter lessons and then moving on. I'm curious, how long do your homeschool lessons last in a day? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos just like this one. See you next time!